All right, great. Hello, everyone. Please press continue and not leave meeting when it says we're recording, because that would make us really sad. Si necesitan traducción en español, por favor, escríbanos en el chat. We have upgraded our world to this like feature that I'm still working on learning, but I promise the next chat and I'm going to do the whole like collaborative slide on the other slide thing. It's like a wonderful world of Zoom. But for now, si necesitan traducción, por favor, escríbanos en el chat para ir traduciéndolo en lo que va a la conferencia o ir escribiéndolo en el chat en lo que vamos en la conferencia. Ya para la otra conferencia que tendremos, sí vamos a tener la oportunidad de hacer la traducción en otro grupo, pero por ahora, si pueden escribirlo en el chat, por favor, escríbanos. And the next time is George is going to do the translation in Spanish. Don't worry, y'all. We're working on her español.
Claro que sí.
Miss George could do the French translations for us. She'd be right on it. I'll never forget when you started speaking in French to Sarah Paul's mom, and Sarah Paul looked like, what is going on right now? All right, everyone. So these are just our same Zoom norms. Just a reminder to just keep your video muted unless you're coming off to ask a question. Helps with the background noise. You can drop questions in the chat as we go. We'll also have time at the end to just come off mute and ask questions that remain. So those are our Zoom norms. We're going to move it forward. Great. Our agenda today, we're going to turn it over to our community council in just a minute for some joy. We're going to keep the Teacher Appreciation Week spirit alive. Then we'll shift into some grade level highlights and shout outs. Our grade team leaders are here. We'll have a social work highlight with Miss George. And then we'll give some updates and reminders before we have Q&A. All right, Community Council, turning it over to you.
All right, thanks everybody for coming tonight. We thought that because it's Teacher Appreciation Month, we should do a slide of shout outs for our teachers. I just have to make it big enough to read. So it's a shout out to Miss Craigman for being the most fabulous art teacher these girls have ever had, to Miss O'Daniel for being hard on us so we can do better, because she keeps us on top of this so we can get our grades up. That's from Inaris Martin and the whole Martin family. We got shout outs to Miss Krishnamurthy. We got shout outs to Miss Colgan for being honest. A shout out to Miss Walker and Miss O'Daniel. That's from me and Esther, and also Mr. Melendez. Shout out to Miss McCullough, who got like a gazillion shout outs. Mr. Moore, Mr. Patel, and Ms. Krishnamurthy again from Brenda T. Mr. Abungalu and Mr. Krishnamurthy. Man, she's killing me. Thanks for allowing our first few minutes of class to be fun and off topic. We appreciate how you make math fun and easy, and that's from Kaylin. And I know that Mr. Marr got some shout outs in the chat the day that we put it in there too, so don't feel neglected. So we just super love all of our teachers, and there might be a second slide that has a big giant rainbow thank you if you play that too, but we just wanted to give the love to our teachers and say that for next week's 5 o'clock chat and chew time slot, we're going to do a community council meeting. We're going to do like a family game night, and we're going to do teacher trivia. And if you teachers want to come and play along, you'd be totally welcome. And there will be prizes. We give out cash money prizes at the family trivia night. It's usually gift cards, but yes. So come and play and prepare to lose. Community council out.
Yes, that the prepare to lose, the cash money prize, and the mic drop combo. Perfect way to launch the meeting. Amazing. Thank you, Joanne and Community Council, for putting this together and always being so thoughtful and supportive of our community. And huge shout out to all of our teachers who work tirelessly day in and day out for your girls. So thank you so much for that. I can't wait to hear who loses next week at trivia. Ha! All right, next slide, Ms. Lopez. It will be the rainbow thank you. Woo! There it is. It's almost Pride Month. We are excited. All right, grade level shout outs. We're going to turn it over to our GLT leaders.
All right, I'm gonna front load this with, there was a lot of fifth grade love this week. So there's actually 2 slides of fifth grade shout outs because I did not feel like it was fair to cut anyone's out. So we have lots of big shout outs to Shayla and all the students who performed in the theater presentations today. They were super adorable. To do theater in fifth grade is scary. To do theater in fifth grade on Zoom must be really, really hard. So we're very proud of you for giving an entire production. We cannot wait to see the recordings. We want to shout out Esther for all her thoughtful contributions and continued growth in her classes. Nashley and Coco for always being so engaged and on point. Shout out to Shoto and Leah for their acting, and to Sinai for always reaching out. For Lena, Adelina for working hard to beef up her ELA grades as well as her history grades. She went in on that missing work and it was awesome. And we want to shout out Ariana, Jay, and Kylie for continuing to attend their small groups with Miss Bassier, and Nyla for her constant improvements, and Isabella for her major improvement in class. And if you click the next slide. And again, those theater performances are awesome. We also wanted to shout out Jay again. She's just constantly working hard and really showing out lately. So we're super proud of you. To Natalie for always showing scholarship. To Carly and Jazzy for making artwork that made a connection to the novel and ELA. To Janice for some major improvements in math, participation, and overall effort. Ms. Bassier says you are a boss. And shout out to Mila, Nyla, and Sapira for consistency and intervention and all the awesomeness. To Mia R, Mia J, and Maud for their constant improvements. And to all the fifth grade families and students who sent messages, cards, and gifts to the fifth grade team, we all feel extremely loved. The love was definitely coming
in. Shout out to Kiera. This is from all the sixth grade teachers for being a stellar student. Shout out to Carissa for rocking it in history. Shout out to Casimir for showing sisterhood and helping other students in class. Shout out to Alexandria Rumpke for leading an amazing class discussion on our ELA novel on Friday. It was great to see. Shout out to Solange for being super engaged in all of her classes these past couple weeks. And last but not least, my favorite of the week, shout out to Sarah Kay for being the best Mr. LaRose I've ever seen. I was not here on Monday, but she made sure to text me a pic and was like, hey, I'm Mr. LaRose. I told you I would do it. I have the perfect wig for it. And she showed up. So this is actually what I woke up to Monday morning, a picture of Sarah dressed as Mr. LaRose. So awesome job, sixth grade.
No, Mr. Meyer, I'm a little disappointed that you're depriving us of the picture of Lola dressed up as you, but
I figured eighth grade would have done that, but yes, Lola did dress up as me and she looked spot on.
all right. Going in on the seventh grade shout outs. This is a multi one from Mr. Melendez, Mr. Jackson, and me. Big shout out to Amira Sellers for raising her grades in ELA and history. In the words of Mr. Jackson, she's working harder now than I've ever seen in my 3 years of teaching her. Way to go, Amira. Shout out to all the seventh graders for working hard in history this week. Mr. Melendez sees you. Mr. Jackson wanted to shout out CH as a whole. They've been really great with discussions in health as they've been discussing things that are not the easiest for seventh graders to dive into. So shout out to them for being great as of late. Ms. O'Daniel wanted to shout out LL for their great class discussions in ELA. Well, I'm going to piggyback on this one. It's evident that most of the students are completing the reading and are bringing their input, ideas, and feelings to our whole class discussions. Whole team wanted to shout out Kimani Casanova for her high quality independent work. It's clear that she's putting her best effort into everything she does. And from me, big thank you to Joanna and Caitlin, who I don't even teach anymore, but I really appreciated those thoughtful teacher appreciation emails. Miss having both of your powerful and reflective voices in the classroom. Thank you as well to all the seventh grade parents, students, and families who sent emails and edible arrangements and all the things that made the whole team feel so appreciated.
Who's going to do their best Miss McCall impersonation?
I was about to say you, right, Mr.
So
Moore?
I don't really like to talk in public, but I'll do it. I mean, I'm being Miss McCullough when I say that. You know, y'all know I don't mind talking in public. So shout out to Anna Nieves for coming out of her shell this school year and embracing being a senior. I'm gonna like double and triple and quadruple that one. Shout out to India Ben for being so responsible earlier this week and ensuring that scholars were following protocols in the classroom. Seniors as models, yes. Shout out to Kaylin, Joanna, Leilani, Kamora, Caitlin, Alana, Savvy B, Lola, Ciara for showing the 8th grade teachers so much love for Teacher Appreciation Week. And shout out to Jada C, Dakota, Jenna, Leonie, Dallas, Ava, Larissa, Sade, Brittany for showing so much passion about anime and the Asian culture and advisory during Asian American Pacific Heritage Month. 8th grade.
Definitely have to co-sign before I turn it to you, Miss George, on Anna. This week on Animal Day, which was yesterday, I happened to throw on my inflatable pig costume just for fun. And when I went to see 8th grade, I wasn't sure what Anna was doing, but her reaction, she grabbed her face, she ran out of the room, and I went to say, "Are you okay?" And she was laughing at me so hard she was crying. And then she just bolted back into the room like, "Miss Strong, I just have nothing to do with you right now. It's ridiculous." So shout out to Anna. She's such a nugget. All right, Miss George, we're going to turn it over to you for a little social work-in highlight this week.
Yes, and in perfect timing, clearly my children's food is done. At the same time, it's my turn. So thank you all for the parents in the room who get that I'm multitasking, because this is not a job we get paid for, but we do it anyway because we love our children. So over the last, sorry, things are about to beep. I got a pizza in here. We're going to talk about it though. It's going to be amazing. So over the last couple of weeks, both between our testing days and today, we celebrated Wellness Wednesday. Something I always appreciate about Ms. Strong is when I say things like, we need to bring some calmness and good vibes. She's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And so Wellness Wednesday came to be twice. So today we're going to have a little bit of Wellness Wednesday for you all in honor of Wellness Wednesday. All right, next slide, please. So I'm just going to ask that you pause, and before you press play, this is just a quick self-check. So just take a look inward. How are you feeling today? Where are you holding tension? If it's a mood meter, are you red or yellow or green or blue? And just do a self-check. And then we're going to follow this prompt. All you have to do is be. So try to get yourself comfortable and please press play. Okay, now just do a little check-in. If you notice any difference, maybe you're feeling a little tired, maybe you are feeling relaxed, maybe you're saying to yourself, you know, I got to do this way more and take a pause in my life and do this. So please know this is on YouTube, but the Calm app, or even finding the Calm page on YouTube, it's just a great way to pause. Having these kinds of things accessible and even scheduling them in your day can be a way to just stop and just reflect and kind of get ourselves down to our baseline. When we talk about things of stress or trauma, what it is that it's our nervous system kicking into gear And so what breathing does is it oxygenates the blood and allows our heart rate to slow down because we are consciously breathing in a slow and purposeful way. Okay, next slide, please. So what is wellness? We talk about wellness in a lot of ways, self-care, things like that. And it's just really a dynamic process of change and growth, taking our healthy habits in order to just maintain better physical and mental health. So instead of just surviving, we're thriving, right? And there's lots of different ways that we can have wellness and well-being. It's not just not being sick. So we're gonna look at all the ways, some of the dimensions of wellness now. Next slide, please. So what's amazing about wellness is that there's so many different ways that we can be able to take care of ourselves. And so what might work for one person might be very different for someone else. So I know that Miss Moran is a kickboxer. And so one of the wellness activities was for the kids, if they chose to do it, to do kickboxing with her. Sometimes punching things and not people, right, can be a tension release. And sometimes you got to get physical. Or maybe church or synagogue or mosque is a place where you feel spiritual, and that is a place where you feel that you have that sense of taking care of yourself. So I just wanted to really, you guys can all read this, and this slide will be available for you when we record it, but just understanding that just like our approaches to learning and how we address our students, right? Are you a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? This also is identifying our space for wellness. How do we feel better? What makes us feel better? Maybe it's yoga one day, and maybe it's breathing another day, and maybe it's punching a punching bag another day. But it's all encompassing. Okay, next slide, please. So in the slide presenting it to the kids again, there's multiple ways that we can have our wellness. Sometimes we need to hear Michelle Obama talk about herself, and it makes us feel good about ourselves and all of our potential, right? Or doing yoga. The kids did nature walks. There's this really cool YouTube channel. I know Mr. Marr and Miss Colgan took tours through the redwoods and the Pacific Northwest. It was really cool, except for the ads. I know Mr. Marr said the kids were even drawn in, and that they were saying, like, I was so into it, and I didn't even realize that a virtual walk through the redwood forest would actually chill me out to such a point that when the ad pops in, it was like really disarming, and everybody's like, so again, finding the space for you that feels helpful is really, again, what this is all about. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just focus on one element of wellness, and that is grounding techniques. What happens a lot of times is that when we get repetitive thoughts or things that are frustrating or bothering us, we may not necessarily be in the here and now. So if I'm worried about something to come, my thinking can be very future oriented. Or if I'm like, oh, that shouldn't have happened, or I'm sad about something that happened, I can be very past oriented. And so grounding is just a way to put ourselves in the here and now, when we can be present in the moment. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to have things that are going to bother us, or that we have worries or things like that. It just allows us to sort of reset, just like a breathing exercise might do, to oxygenate our blood. This is a way to sort of snap out of what might be unhelpful thinking or even traumatic triggers. So I have had students, they start talking and they kind of go into this spin, and then they start getting upset, and you can see it like viscerally and feelings wise in their bodies. I'm sorry, of course my children are here now, and this is going to be how I do all the challenges. Welcome back. So grounding is really a way to put yourself in the here and now. Sorry, I was I sure did. You rang the doorbell. It was amazing. Okay, your lunch is here, dinner's here, everybody. This is like really Mom George. Okay, and then I'm going to my room. Okay, bye. See you in a little. Maybe your children ground you, maybe they don't sometimes. So what I wanted to do is just do a very simple grounding exercise. Again, when we are, especially around trauma triggers and we are activated, right? So we talk about, this is our prefrontal cortex, and it is the thing that lets us be reasonable and logical. And when we flip our lids, right, what happens is we go back into our hindbrain, which is our brain stem here. And that is all of our sort of, inborn traits of things that we have when we are activated, meaning the fight, flight, or freeze reflex. And so using grounding techniques, again, can like snap us back into the here and now so that we can continue to use coping strategies as needed. So there are multiple ways that we can do grounding activities. It can be in your body, the 5 senses, which is what we're going to do. It might be smelling something. So really sitting and putting a candle there and like smelling it, or aromatherapy, noticing things. So maybe a rainbow, I might look around the room and say, okay, let me find all the things that are red. Okay, that's red and the pen is red. And I go around the room and give examples, and it just makes you think about what you're thinking about in the moment and not the outside stuff, right? So we can kind of put our thoughts to the side that can really cause uncomfortable feelings. So we're gonna do a little grounding technique because I like this one and the kiddies like this one. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Great. So this is grounding with our senses. And so what you're going to do again is just sit in your seat and notice how you're feeling without judgment. You may be like, is this woman done talking already? You may be like, this is the best chat and chew ever. Just really feel where you are. You want to close your eyes and take a breath and just center yourself to relax. And as you look, just look around the room. Notice just 5 things that you can see. So I notice Miss Walker's face on my Zoom. I see my glass, a pen. I see the plant in the window and the garbage can. And now you're going to do 5 things you can feel, right? It might be yourself on your chair. Maybe it's your comfy sweater you're wearing. What are 4 things that you can feel? And the next thing are 3 things that you can hear. So maybe you hear birds chirping, maybe you hear my children or your children gleefully giggling in the next room. What are you hearing? And the next thing are 2 things that you can smell. What can you smell in the air? Kids tell me they smell their mask. I don't know what that means. Maybe you smell the dinner you just made for your children. And then 1 thing that you can taste. So maybe it's your toothpaste or a mint. This can be a tricky one because sometimes we just taste what's in our mouth and maybe you think about what that taste is or not. But something else we can do is just end and spam the chat with 1 thing for which you are grateful. So we're going to do a little quick gratitude closeout. 1 thing that you are grateful for. So I'm going to say my 2 daughters. Okay. So again, if you are finding yourself in a space where it's like things feel like a lot or feeling activated, this is 1 thing that you can do just to bring yourself back. And I always, yes, coffee, yes, books. I'm finally finished my Notorious RBG book. It's so good. Do you know she carries around a copy of the Constitution in her purse? Somebody told me that and then promptly got me a Constitution. So here we are. I love this. Health for my family, lots about family and life. Right? Health for our family, especially during this time. Sunshine, spring. It rained the other day and it was that smell in the air, right? You know, when it rains, when it's warm out and that just smell comes over. New York City gets its like little bath that it needs. I love it. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And so again, something I like about this as well is the kids, I tell the kids they can do this. They don't have to stop what they're doing, right? They can be in a state test. They can be frustrated about a word problem. They can be upset with a friend and do all these things while being quiet if they need to be, or staying in class or taking a break. These are all things that we can do. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. So thank you. And Ms. Strong, I know you saw my next slide, but I'm not sure if you're going to do that first or I do it first, but I just need to emotionally prepare myself. So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you all know, and I shared earlier in the week, really bittersweet news, much more bitter than sweet, but we love her and are excited for her next journey. So that's the sweet. But Miss George, our incredible social worker of the last 10 years, I'm now realizing I put 9 in a slide that's coming up, and it's actually 10, is going to be moving on to the next phase of her journey. This has been obviously a really challenging thing for me to accept, but also something that Ms. George and I have been talking about for several years now, just in terms of our own professional growth and planning and aspirations. And so it is with both sadness and excitement for her new adventures that we just wanted to take a moment and share it publicly again, outside of the letter that we sent with you all. And it would be impossible, as I shared with you in the email, to really try to put into words the impact that Ms. George has had on our community in the last decade. And I know for me personally, and as a school leader, she has been a grounding and consistent force for both me and our staff and students through lots of things. And so we're letting you all know now in May, and starting to tell students strategically now in May, because Miss George she works with kids in all grade levels, and some of our students she's had in counseling years over years. And so it's really important to us that we're able to give her and our community a long runway to process and plan and close things out, particularly with students that she has a therapeutic relationship with. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. George to share a few words of her own.
Thank you. So I made this slide because this is how I'm feeling, all the feels, where Rose had to be in there because she's my spirit animal. I just wanted to make sure that I have the time to thank you all. I can't do all this without crying, but it's just going to be what it's going to be. It really, 10 years, I can't believe how fast it went by. But it's really just been a space for me here that's really felt like home. And please know that I'm not leaving to go to another school or anything like that. This really is just a point in my life where my path is taking a different turn. And so I'll be teaching it at NYU for a class. And I remember that with Dakota. Oh my goodness, remember she didn't want to go with the class. Oh my God, I remember that so well. I love that you said that. Thank you. And yeah, and I'm gonna be trying to, start my own business and trying to, social work it from a perspective of being able to support school social workers. I really love this work, and it's really hard, especially in the last year. And so if I can support other people to be able to be the best school social workers that they can be, then that only can impact our other students and, New Yorkers and all the things. So it really is. And I can have a little more time with my family and things like that. So I just want to thank you all. It's just been, I don't know what it's going to be like. It's going to be a whole new world and a big adjustment, but luckily I live 3 blocks away. So you can't really get rid of me that easily. But just wanted to thank you all again for your trust in me and for your just being you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely, Miss George. Keep the Miss George love coming. And even though we're talking about this now, just a reminder, Miss George is not going anywhere anytime soon. We still have all the way through the end of this year. She will continue to be here. And as she said, it's see you later, not goodbye. I am certain she'll be a guest at our gratitude luncheons and kindness days. She'll come zooming by on her roller skates at greeting. She won't be able to stay away, but we are, again, it's a bittersweet moment. We would love to keep her bottled up in our community because we love her so much, but am also really excited for her to expand and to support her in small business ownership and teaching and entrepreneurship and all the things that we want to teach our girls that they can do, and that they can be. So let's keep that love coming, and we'll keep on keeping on. So Ms. Lopez, if you don't mind going to the next slide, because I think related to this is where I got the number wrong on the slide. I thought that this was a good time to respond to some feedback that I've gotten from Community Council, who's been advocating on behalf of families. As you know, they meet with leadership and really share thoughts and concerns that they feel will help us better serve our community. And so wanted to take this opportunity to talk a bit about just like our staff and what you can expect and what makes us unique as a school community. And so I think one thing that really sets our school apart from others is that it truly is a community driven school, both in the sense of like a neighborhood. Even though we've got students that come from all the boroughs, we are very much ingrained in the life space of the Lower East Side and the East Village. And we are more of a family at times than we are a workplace. And I think one thing that speaks to that is that we do have, and by unusual, I should probably say like extraordinary, like tenure of staff members and a commitment to really grow leadership from within. And so Miss George has been our school social worker. She's also a Lower East Side resident, 10 years, not 9. Miss Cardesis, who's not here, was a teacher here, a teacher leader, an academic director. She's an LES resident. She's going on her 9th year in our community. Miss Golio, a teacher leader, academic director, her 7th year here. I started here as a teacher, became a teacher leader before being a resident principal and principal. I also live in the neighborhood, and it's my 7th year in our community. Miss Trez, many of whom you know, was a parent of a scholar who then said, I got to get in this place and get eyes on my child a little more, even if that means I have to quit Google and work for after school, who then became an ops associate and is now our ops coordinator and has been here for 5 years. Miss Lopez started as our after school program coordinator, became our ADSFA. Her titles are so long I had to abbreviate. Now our director of student and family affairs, who has been here for 5 years. Miss McCullough, as many of you know, she started as our after school program coordinator, became our after school program director, became our director of high school admissions, has been here for 6 years. Miss Stoller began as a maternity leave replacement, became a full-time teacher. She's our assistant director of student supports, has been here for 6 years. Mr. Marr, Miss Colgan, Miss Walker, Miss Smith, our teacher leaders on average have been within our community between 3 and 5 years, serving both full-time in the classroom and as school leaders. And so I think that it is not something that you typically find in charter schools in particular, to have teachers and leaders that really embed themselves within the community, and something that I think is really, really special about our team. Next slide, Miss Lopez. And on that note of growing from within, she may or may not even know, we wanted to share an exciting announcement about next year. Our new Assistant Director of Student and Family Affairs will be Anaris Martin. Woo! Anaris, we're so excited. Just kidding. Miss Colgan. Woo! Feel free to just come off mute and cheer, throw some love in the chat. Woohoo! There it is. Somebody got some love off mute. It's probably Mara Delaware. I hope so. Woo woo! We are so excited to welcome Ms. Colgan even more officially into school leadership as our Assistant Director of Student and Family Affairs next year. Ms. Colgan, would you like to say any words of acceptance speech, if you will. Feel free to come off mute.
Yeah, I'm really excited. At this point, I have personally taught everybody in the school except for the current 8th graders, which is wild to me to think, but I am really excited for this next step. And I'm excited that I will still be able to be with all of the littles coming into the rooms to see you, for my first class of 5th graders who will be 8th graders next year, being able to be a part of that, planning process for all those celebrations and seeing you off. It was my promise, that 5th grade class, that I would see them through graduation. And I'm really excited that I will not only get to see them through graduation, but be a part of that. So yes, Margaret, isn't that wild? You have not been around long enough to see the mini hairstyles of Miss Colgan. I have pictures for you. I will make sure that you get to see all the styles that Girls Prep has seen. But yes, thank you, everyone.
And families, you heard it here first. Ms. Colgan is going to be sharing this news with students. Mara, I know you're getting the sneak peek of information, as is Esther probably, who may be able to hear this. But please know that we've not officially made a big announcement yet to students. Ms. Colgan will be doing that. We've shared with staff. We wanted to share with you as it relates to next year planning. And so please know that announcement is forthcoming to all of our kiddos. And while we will miss having her in the classroom, we're really excited that she's going to be in a position to support teachers and to spread the love and the joy that she's created in her classroom to lots of classrooms. So very excited about that. And so on that note, right, because again, want to just share what you can expect, like staff retention, staff growth. We know Miss George is leaving, and in our conversations with community council, we know that anytime there are announcements about staff changes, it can feel unnerving, especially if you don't know what to expect. And so we wanted to just kind of normalize what to expect and share some big picture information so that as we continue to talk about transitions for next year, you know what's coming and can support your scholars with that information. And so one thing that I wanted to just highlight is just kind of the differences between charter and DOE schools in terms of staff retention. So if you are someone new to Girls Prep and your scholar was in a DOE school previously, like your experience with teachers year over year might have looked different than they do in the charter sector. Generally, charter schools have longer school days and longer school years, higher accountability and expectations for staff, generally a higher workload, faster growth opportunities for teachers, and charter schools are very equity driven. Not that DOE schools are not, but a lot of staff members are drawn to charters because specifically of the mission to close opportunity gaps and to be able to do things a little differently and more flexibly in a charter school to best meet the needs of students. And so teachers come to charters through alternate pathways at times versus traditional teaching pathways. And oftentimes, people that join charter schools are looking for careers in education, but not necessarily careers in teaching. I hope and believe and love Teachers for Life. It is to this day my favorite job I've ever had and will probably ever have. But people come to charter schools, again, through a lot of different pathways that aren't necessarily because they intend on staying in the classroom for 15, 20, 25 years, like my first grade teacher, Miss Elshire, who I believe taught for 55 years and may still be somewhere in a first grade classroom, just knocking it out of the park. In our network, our average staff retention rate year over year, this is instructional and non-instructional, is about 65%. That's at least over the last 4 years. And while there isn't staff retention data for the charter sector writ large, I will say that our school generally mirrors the network average in terms of cycles for retention, but our leadership tenure is significantly higher than average. We also generally retain teachers and staff members for 3 or more years. Again, that's in thinking average. And there are predictable cycles and indicators. Often there will be higher changes in staff if there's a change in leadership. The year that I became the principal and Miss Reed left, we had a higher rate of staff change, which is predictable when there is a school leader change. We also can predict higher levels of transitions when we know teachers are finishing residency programs or TFA and are moving on to the next phase in their journey. Go ahead to the next slide for me, please, Ms. Lopez. And so we wanted to share some reasons that staff members stay. Again, as I shared, we have a very unique school where we have a lot of people who have been here for a very long time. Being in a charter school for 10 years or 7 years or 9 years is almost unheard of in New York City. And so I think the top reasons that we hear that staff members stay, number one is always the girls. We have the most incredible kids in all of the world. I'm sure you know that because they belong to you and you are the reason that they're incredible. But our staff members truly love our kids in a way that they really become an extension of family. Also the community. Our staff create really strong relationships with each other. They have clubs. There is a roller skating club happening right now. Miss George may or may not be in charge of it. Mr. LaRose may or may not be a part of it. They have book clubs, and they really create strong relationships with one another. And our families, the family engagement and the relationships that make us a community school are really something that is special and that keeps people here. Also, career growth and development opportunities. People who enjoy a fast-paced workplace and like a high level of demand and a challenge. Opportunity to make long-lasting connections and impact. The fact that our alum are so often at our school, the fact that we still talk to our first graduating class of kiddos, that we really are committed to kids to and through college and their post-secondary choices makes us a very unique space and is something that I particularly really love as I've seen kids that I've taught in classrooms that are now getting my first group of Girls Prep Scholars ever are, oh my word, going to be sophomores in college. So my last group of kiddos are getting their college acceptances now. But the fact that we can still speak to what's happening to them and they show up at our doors literally every day, even after they say I'm never coming back, is definitely something that keeps us here. And also the fact that we are a charter model that really takes a whole child approach. We are not a no excuses model. So a lot of teachers that have been at a Success Academy or an Achievement First or a charter model that is more traditionally no excuses, find their niche in our school because we, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the no excuses model, but the way that we approach our kids through that whole child lens is something that is different from most charters and keeps people here. Next slide, please. And why do staff members leave? This was a question, again, we talked about with community council and one I know that scholars often ask, right? This is the first question, why? Why are people not gonna be in our community? And there are a lot of reasons. And sometimes we're able to share that information with kiddos and families and sometimes we're not. And sometimes teachers like to share more and sometimes they don't. And so wanted to just share kind of some of the common reasons, some of which are, again, completion of like residency programs or alternate teaching pathways. So TFA commitments or NYU residencies. Some leave to seek jobs in the DOE, right? There is a union, there is pension for people who do want to be career teachers and are thinking long-term planning. They are often seeking specific positions within the DOE that will allow them those benefits in terms of their career trajectory. And those cycles fluctuate, right? Based on DOE availability. When there are years where there's higher waves of retirees in the DOE and a higher wave of openings, we often will see a higher rate of fluctuation in staff as those positions become available. Some to diversify teaching experience. So to, if we are particularly the only school they've ever taught at, it is to get an experience at another school environment. Some go to private schools, some go to schools specifically for gifted and talented programs or exceptional learners. Leadership opportunities. So sometimes people want an opportunity that's not available in-house, and so they want to seek professional growth outside. Or in our network, right? I know Miss Brooks was our AD of STEM for quite some time, and she left our school to go to the network for a leadership position. Work-life balance. As I said, we are, charter schools do demand more of people. And as circumstances change and families grow and responsibilities shift, oftentimes people seek a different position to find a bit more work-life balance. Or they're recruited by another school. Teachers are in high demand right now. Teaching is always the best profession in the land, according to me, and they should be paid $1 million. But we know that with teacher shortages, particularly when it relates to COVID and the pandemic, schools are recruiting teachers. And sometimes that presents opportunities for people to get closer to home. We do have staff members that commute from Long Island that have been very transparent that if a job opens up on Long Island, that will be where they go because it will help their overall family planning and life. COVID concerns, particularly this year, as people were afraid to come out of their homes or into the buildings, or what is this going to look like? That definitely impacted our staff towards the beginning of the year with some staff departures, just as people navigated the pandemic and personal circumstances. And there are people who are non-renewed by the school and do not come back because that is a choice that the school has made in terms of our forward planning. Next slide. And so how do we support everyone? What to expect? We know that even when it's planned and even when it's expected and even all of those things, right? It is still something that we need to support students and families with. We build relationships, and when people are no longer here, that's hard. Want to make it very clear that we avoid mid-year departures whenever possible. We know, particularly if we have to make a staffing shift in the middle of the year, that is not an easy shift for adults or for kiddos. We streamline communication for end of year transitions. So we will be talking to you and to students in June generally about staff transitions. And that communication is streamlined and we plan it together, right? We don't want students or families hearing things one-off in a way that feels unexpected. And so we try to streamline that in the best way possible. So you can expect in June to find out who's new and joining our team, who's moving on to a new adventure. But that is really individualized based on personal circumstances, right? We needed to share about Miss George now due to her role and planning for a really clear closeout. And so depending on personal circumstances, those announcements might look and sound a little different, but we will streamline them and they will come to you when they come to students. We want to make sure as best we can in June that there's time for process and closing out and to support students in that transition. Generally, transitions at the end of the year are easier for kiddos to process because they're getting all new teachers next year, regardless, as they move to the next grade level. But we still know that personal relationships are important. They're critical to our work. And so we make sure, that we build in time for those conversations and processing to happen at the end of the year, and time for back to school events in August to meet teachers, virtual home visits, and to really lay the foundation of relationships with your scholars, incoming or new teachers. Go ahead to the next slide, Ms. Lopez. Okay, I couldn't remember if I had another one in here. We have a few brief updates and reminders, but I would love community council, if you don't mind, in the chat, you can even private message me. I know we talked about things that you wanted to make sure that I covered. If there was anything we talked about that I missed in terms of transition planning, please just private chat that to me and I'll make sure to go back to it before we totally close out. Great, updates and reminders. Da, 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 da. All right, all right. A few upcoming assessments want to make sure are on your radar. Our end of year map assessment windows coming up. Critical piece of data. It is the one assessment that is going to give us a growth measure for your scholar over the course of the year. Growth being more important than any absolute measure of their performance. So mark your calendars that on Tuesday, May 25th, we need every kiddo in the school or logged in remotely to take their ELA map assessment. We will be offering makeups on the 26th, but we really want everyone testing on the 25th, because if you do, you get a testing celebration on May 26th. It's going to be awesome. Similarly, Tuesday, June 1st, everybody in attendance, math map. June 2nd will be makeups, but again, you'll miss the celebration if you have to make it up on June 2nd. So let's make sure everybody's in attendance on May 25th and June 1st and every other day, because school is important, but definitely those. And Mara, why? This is a great question. Don't even get me started, because this is your chance to show what you know. It's the one assessment that you can't actually do poorly on this if you give your best effort. It shows your growth, and we want to celebrate your growth. So as long as you do your very best, we're going to get to celebrate and do happy dances. And we're really, really excited about it. And so that's why, because we want to know your growth, and it's going to be amazing. And I could keep going, but I'm not, or we'll go over. Mara, I'll call you. 8th grade, pencil it in. We talked a little last week, but Regents exams are coming. June 22nd for living environment, June 23rd for algebra 1. We talked a little about who needs to sit, what our recommendations going to be. We will be talking more about that in the coming weeks. So 8th grade families that may have questions know that more information is forthcoming, just about recommendations for who should sit, why it would benefit, and what the logistics of that will be. Next slide, please. Boom, right on time. Before we just open it up for people to come off mute with questions, leaders, if there was anything that came up in the chat while I was talking that you want to come off mute and elevate, we can start there.
It just seems there's a lot of witty rhetoric in the chat, as we are all witty and fabulous.
And because anytime you have Ms. Walker anywhere, you are bound to have witty rhetoric.
Yeah, it's all Ms. Walker's fault.
I'm giving her credit, not blame, Mr. Marr. We're going to reframe that positively.
Yeah, it's all your amazingness, Ms. Walker.
We're not a sarcastic group, not at all. No sarcasm, no competition. We're middle school teachers, if you can tell.
At the risk of interrupting the witty repartee, I don't mind coming off mute to answer my question. It's about staff loss and stuff like that. I just wondered if you could circle back for what parents and families should do if the impact of the mid-school loss of a teacher is feeling like it's having an impact. So, I mean, it's the fact that we all know that the 7th grade lost a math teacher. And if you had issues with math, or you had questions about, she was your point of contact, or any of those kind of things, like what's the chain of command for where you turn when a teacher is suddenly, especially a head teacher, you know, she wasn't like the under teacher. What should we do with questions and comments and things like that around that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really critical that kids and families know where to go and who to turn to if they have questions or need help processing. And so I think if it is an emotional impact on the student where they need a space to process, they have questions, they're having a lot of feelings, I would 100% reach out to Miss George and Miss Hogan. They made themselves available when we shared news with kiddos, and will make themselves available to kiddos after the fact as well, to just help process and give space for feelings. They are also welcome to talk to, particularly 7th graders. Miss Walker would also be a resource as the 7th grade team leader who coordinates things with all of those teachers. She would be a great resource for students or families to turn to with just questions, even logistical ones of like, so who's now gonna be the point of contact? Sorry, my husband's making sure my dog doesn't get my couch disgusting. Forgive us. Who's gonna be my new point of contact? What are the, I know Mara's freaking out. What are the specifics about that? And then if it's instructional questions, so wanting to know specifically about how Miss Chen and Miss DeFord, who's now also in 7th grade math, are working to support scholars with math content. I would say talking to Miss Golio as our academic director of STEM. She is a great point for any questions just around instructional supports. So again, just stamping those, right? If it's feelings and loss that students need to process, Miss George and Miss Hogan will absolutely make themselves available and give some strategies for students there. If it's grade team specific and point of contact, and I'm unsure exactly what that's happening with 7th grade, Miss Walker as the grade team leader would be your go-to. And then instructional supports, like how are we making sure kids don't lose a beat, and how are we keeping co-teaching happening with Miss Chen and Miss DeFord. Miss Golio, as our academic director of STEM, has been working closely with both of those teachers and would be a good point to go to. If it were a humanities teacher, I'd say all of those things, and I'd say Miss Cardesis instead of Miss Golio, as she would be the point person for any like history or ELA instructional supports. Yes, agreed. Miss DeFord rocks for real, for real. If you've not had a chance to yet fully meet her, she is one of our, she is our only this year NYU resident. She's a career changing teacher who is literally been across all content areas this year. She brings a wealth of science knowledge from her previous career, and has been working with 7th grade all year, both in science and now in math. So we were really happy to have someone who already had relationships with the girls and content knowledge to be able to move right into that role to support. Renaissance woman, yes. Oh, Mara, it's okay. Adults are weird sometimes. We know. Where do I sign up or opt in for math and science regents? Great question that came to me in the chat. More information will be coming about exactly how to opt in if your scholar is fully remote. So you haven't missed anything yet. Ms. Golio is working with our network team to streamline that communication. It will be coming out. You haven't missed anything yet for 8th grade families. All right, I am happy to hang back for a few more minutes if there are any other outstanding questions. I know we gave you a lot of information this evening, but if you don't have any other questions, feel free to go ahead and hop off. Don't forget, community council meeting next week, same time, be there or be square. Somebody please win the trivia and all the cash money prizes and let us know about it. It's going to be amazing. Have a good night, everyone. Yep, Tangela's coming for it. I see it. I have a feeling you'll win. I'm going to send you the good vibes.
Good night.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, Luz, just give me the money. Not how it works. I believe you could win too, Luz. I believe in you.
Same as Colgan. Same Marwa.
So much Marwa love. I love the all caps right now too. You're totally yelling in your 5th grade all caps. You got it. You're so ready for this, Marwa.
Real quick, Miss Strong, Miss Lopez, did you guys get an email from Noemi? Do you recall?
Today?
Maybe from Friday?
I don't think so, but potentially could go back and look. Is there a specific subject line that might be helpful for us to search for?
I don't know.